Job site safety is a top priority for construction managers. Producing risk at the job site is a full-time job, and it all starts by creating a culture of safety. Here to chat with me is Kevin Graves, Senior Safety Advocate at Assurance. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Peggy.
So Kevin, let's talk about this. What are some of the most common, I think, ways to reduce risk at the job site? And I think you know probably better than most on that.
Yeah, so at Assurance Agency, we have the unique ability to have loss runs from different contractors, which gives us an idea already of some of the loss history that a client already has. And that way we can start tailoring some of our training efforts towards minimizing those losses. So just from starting with the client, I'm able to go ahead and perform specific training to some of the hazards that they might encounter on a job site.
So when you think about that, when you look at some of that and you say some of the losses and help them with training, what does that entail?
Well, a lot of it is just going out to the job site and meeting with the individuals. So a lot of what we do is just doing site inspections, which is just a mock inspection. So in case OSHA were to show up on site, they're already prepared for the worst case scenario. You know, they say that a lot of the OSHA standards are written in blood because of the fact that when they wrote the standards in the 1970s, there were no standards before that. And as we know, construction was still going on. So we start there with the OSHA standards, and then that way we've already got a good idea just based on their exposures on the job site when we go there, and then tailoring our training efforts to that.
When we think about these OSHA standards and inspections, what areas do you think are the most important, or does OSHA consider the most important for inspections?
Well, it really depends on the client, but given that the OSHA Focus 4, the two major ones are the fall protection and the struck bys, so we do really focus on, for any contract that's doing any sort of elevated work surface area work, to make sure that they're tied off and they understand the proper fall protection requirements on a job site. I work with the residential framing contractor, a concrete contractor, a roofing contractor, and those contractors especially, because of their hazards with their work, they must tie off 100%.
The fall in between, when they talk about that, the numbers are astronomical sometimes. And so when you go there, you would think sometimes they don't do enough. And I mean, do the numbers sometimes when you go there and you say some of these things that they've done because they don't do the right things are almost like you want to say, how does that happen, right? I mean, you see the numbers and you go, how do they keep repeating those accidents?
Yeah, and unfortunately right now we have such, well, I guess I shouldn't say unfortunately, we have so much work right now, and it's great in the Chicagoland area.
So it's a wonderful thing,
everybody's back to work, so when we have this much work, it's harder for clients to make sure that they've got all the right training for all their employees. And there's people that are getting pulled out of all different sectors in the industry that are now doing construction work that just don't have the background and experience. So it's really up to the employers and then actually up to us as well to help them with that training. And I think that's where a lot of the fall protection statistics come from, are the untrained employees or the younger employees that do not have the experience that some of the older employees do.
That's an interesting point. Do you think now, because things are back to work, that there's a lot of people that are going back to the job site because they're not being trained because there is so much work now?
Yes, that is definitely the case. We work with some residential clients, and in that sector alone, it's been a very challenging thing because a lot of these subdivisions that had kind of been abandoned in the 2008, 2009 area because of the economy, they're now being finished. And at the same time, the construction sector and the commercial area has also been booming. So we've got the shortage of work coming in, or I'm sorry, of personnel to do the work. So it's been very challenging just making sure that we've got the people trained that can perform that work.
So we've kind of got it like this double-edged sword right now. So what are, for all those who are watching, what's the best steps that we need to take so these job sites are safe? Because the best thing we want is we want all these workers to go home to their families at night. Safe culture, right?
Right, yeah. So we want to make sure that we've got a sound safety program. And it starts at the employee onboarding process, that they are training their employees prior to getting onto the job site, that they're going through an orientation program that is specific to their operations. After that, it's making sure that you're mentoring the employees and checking up on them frequently and oftenly to ensure that they understand all the hazards of their work and that they're getting all the controls. So the inspection process is also tied in with that. And then, of course, on-the-job training. Me as a safety professional, I can do training that's kind of a bigger picture type training, like fall protection, but when we're talking about like nail guns in specific, that's something that as an experienced carpenter, we would expect them to kind of lead that training path for the younger, unexperienced carpenter to make sure that they understand all the hazards associated with their tools. So there's a lot that can be done just with the mentorship ability on the job sites too.
Are we talking about big dollars here when they're not doing proper training, and job site losses when they're not taking the time to do training, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do have a significant loss, you might have to call OSHA, because if an employee is hospitalized, you have to call OSHA within 24 hours. Now, if that is the case and they determine that you didn't train your employee after they come out on site, you have a large sum of citation that could be coming your way. Anywhere from up to $12,000 for a series citation to $120,000 if it's a repeat. So there are a lot of dollar amounts, and this is all outside of the insurance aspect with the cost of an injury that could be happening on a job site, because we all know that just the cost of an injury can be significant.
So if we think about this, Kevin, it's really important for these companies to take the necessary time to just train. Remind them in the morning what they have to do, the safety steps they need to take, right? These things that you're talking about are so really vitally important so that our job site workers, young, older, get refresher courses so they get home to their families at night.
Yeah, so whatever you want to call it, daily hazard analysis, daily task analysis, daily huddle, it all means the same thing. Spend like 5 minutes in the morning talking through with your crew any hazards they might encounter, and then all controls for those hazards. So you're spending the time right there at the beginning of the day before they report to their work area to make sure that they know exactly what they're going to do and they know the controls for that.
Are there, just quickly, we've got just about a minute to go here, are there some things that at the job site, each job site's unique, that they might do that daily huddle that you say, hey, there's something unique about this site we should think about and go over as that daily huddle to maybe protect every worker on that job site?
Yeah, any critical activity that might expose other contractors on site, like let's say there's a critical pick going on a job site where you're going to have a large 300-ton crane on site that's going to pick an air handler unit to the roof. That could affect everyone on the job site. We want to make sure people are away from those areas. Setting precasts, doing structural steel. There's a lot of things that not only do the contractors performing the work need to be aware of, but everyone else. So there's definitely a notification process that needs to be in place too for all the other trades to notify any sort of higher risk activities happening on the site that they're performing or anyone else is performing, just to ensure that they're not entering these protected work areas.
Kevin, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, and that's our safety zone for today.